Hello everybody, welcome back to the Young Fan Podcast. Welcome to another League One roundup for match week number 2 here on this Sunday morning. We're back again this week. The voice, it's gone again. It's gone again. You can tell what sort of day it was at the Kassam yesterday. Tyler Guram scoring in the 90th minute to earn Oxford the first 3 points of the season against Cambridge United. My dedicated match reaction for that is on the channel right now. You can check it out, leave it a like, a cheeky comment as well as I react to all of the action from Grenoble Road yesterday. Like I say, the first 3 points of the season off the back of a disappointing derby defeat on the opening day. But we're back now, earning our first points of this 2022-23 campaign, and so were some other teams. Some teams we'll be looking at today as well. Digesting 4 games today, looking at the key players, looking at how the game's panned out, looking at it from a tactical perspective as well. Of course, in the comments down below, excited for League One to be now really on a roll. Leave a like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. That way you'll be notified when I go live or do a recorded episode just like this one. Enough messing about. In the comments down below, are you happy with your team's second game of the season performance and result? I'll be replying and responding to all of them as per usual. So starting off then with Fleetwood against Plymouth Argyle. It finishes Fleetwood 2, Plymouth Argyle 1. A lot of people, including myself, thought Plymouth had enough to at least get a point from this game, maybe even win it. I think I did predict a Plymouth win. I thought they could take the quality and the real positivity from that win against Barnsley last weekend, take it into this one. They weren't able to because Fleetwood, well, they needed to bounce back from their opening game defeat against Port Vale, newly promoted side. They weren't happy with it, as you can imagine, and they certainly did do that. They were 1 goal down in the first half. You can see here, looking at the momentum graph, they went 1 goal down. Ryan Hardy scored from the spot, I do believe, in the 23rd minute. But it wasn't long before Fleetwood got straight back into the game and equalised through Daniel Batty. An assist from Rooney in that one at half-time. It's 1-1. But, I mean, look, you can look at the momentum graph here. It sort of looks as though it's quite a tight, edgy first half. Not many side getting hold of the game. You can see probably Plymouth started the better side than Fleetwood. Did have a spell. Then Fleetwood had probably a bigger spell. And then Plymouth, when they sort of had their first big roll of the game, they earned the penalty and scored the penalty. Then Fleetwood pretty much, like I say, straight back into the game, looking to really come with a response. You don't want to go 1-0 down at home, especially when you lost the first game of the season, first home game of the season. It's important that, I mean, you show a bit of quality, and the fans as well. They've just turned out for the first game of the season at home. They don't want to be disappointed again, and they did score the goal. Like I said, Daniel Bassi makes 1-1. Then the end of the first half, I mean, Plymouth try and sort of respond once more. They weren't able to. Plymouth a little bit. That sort of finishes with Plymouth. Half-time whistle goes. It, of course, is 1-1. We go into the second half. I think the game probably opened up a little bit in the second half. Probably started the better side. Then Fleetwood, the home side, had probably a bigger patch. And then Plymouth got back into the game. But the final big push of the game was for Fleetwood. And they scored the goal through Joe Garner. He made it 2-1. I mean, we'll have a look at the key player in just a second. It wasn't actually Joe Garner who was the key player, I'd say. It would be the defender, Josh Earl. We'll come on to him in just a second. But Joe Garner, the substitute, who came on in the 81st minute. 5 minutes later, he tucks away the goal and makes it 2-1. A big goal for Fleetwood. And I watch Cod's vlogs. He's an amazing Fleetwood fan. And he does, of course, some amazing content on his channel. Definitely go and check it out. Cod's vlogs. His name's Ben, I believe. A great guy. And I mean, I watched his vlog, as I always do. I'm really interested to see what different fans and sort of how they view their game, especially being a fan of a side that, you know, when they lose or when they win, how do they respond to it? How do they break it down themselves? And I saw him say, to be fair, I mean, it wasn't one of those games where it's going to define the season. Last week against Port Vale was going to define their season, or it was going to be a big way of defining their year. This game against Plymouth, it isn't really one that's going to define their year. Plymouth, they expect to be in and around that top 6. You look at Plymouth, you know, this is a side that last week beat Barnsley. This is a side that last year just missed out on the playoffs. In fact, it was Fleetwood. Their draw, I think it was 3-3 in the end. In the end was probably quite a big reason why they couldn't get into that top 6. You know, you look at the fact that Fleetwood, this isn't the game that's going to be one of those where you go back and go, if only we beaten Fleetwood. It wasn't going to be one of those games. It isn't a side where you expect to win. But, I mean, they were defeated by Port Vale in a game where you thought that probably would be quite a big indication of where they were going to finish up come the end of the year. But against Plymouth, I mean, they beat them 2-1 and they won the game. You got to certainly give them a whole lot of respect to that. First Scott Brown win under the Fleetwood era, you could say, with him in charge. And The first win, I believe, in his managerial career. This is his first job as a manager and his first 3 points at home at Fleetwood against Plymouth. You can have a look at the odds as well. I know we sort of broke it down when we did the prediction and preview, but looking at the odds, it's quite interesting. Fleetwood were the favourites. Fleetwood weren't Plymouth were the favourites, 42% chance of winning, 69-50. As for Fleetwood, it was 19-10, so 34% to 42%. Plymouth were the favourites, even with home advantage. Plymouth was certainly backed by the bookies. You can see why. The first game of the season, they certainly did show quality. Barnsley weren't great, but Plymouth to win on the opening game of the season against a newly relegated side like Barnsley is, I think, a big indication of where they want to go and what they want to achieve this season. But both sides now with 1 win and 1 defeat. Very, very interesting stuff. But that's the first game of the season we've had a little look at. I did promise I'd have a look at Josh Erden, speak about him. Of course, joined in the summer on a free transfer, I believe. 8.3 rating on SofaScore. Of course, didn't get a goal or an assist, but defensively, he looked very, very good. 6 clearances, 4 block shots, 1 interception, 4 tackles as well. You'll have a look at the ground duels. We'll have a look at all the duels in just a second, but the ground duels in particular, 11 he had. He won 7 of them. Aerial duels, he had 4 and he won 4. 100% success rate when it comes to aerial duels. I mean, he did a very, very good job, and 92 touches in the game as well. Very good pass accuracy of 75% for a defender. I think he did a very, very good job for them yesterday. So very, very impressive for Fleetwood. They get their first 3 points of the season, their first points of the season, you'd say, as well. As for Plymouth, it wasn't a great way of coming into the game off the back of a good result last weekend. It finishes Fleetwood 2, Plymouth Argyle 1. So we head to the University of Bolton Stadium next as Bolton earn their first 3 points of the season coming off the back of a draw against Ipswich last Saturday. As for Wycombe, they beat Burton 3-0 last weekend. They lost 3-0 this weekend. Not what Gareth Ainsworth would have wanted, but it was never going to be an easy game. Bolton have strengthened this summer, and a lot of Bolton fans quite rightly are confident about the aspirations and the ambitions of their campaign. But Wycombe, we speak about how they love the backs against the wall. They love the underdog mentality. They've really, I think, strive with that under Gareth Ainsworth. They got into the Championship. A lot of people couldn't think they would. A lot of people also think they wouldn't be in a promotion push last year. They did that, got to get into the playoff final once again. So, look, I mean, it wasn't a good result for Wycombe, but for Bolton, it was a brilliant, brilliant win. 3-0 in the end, and some players really did have some fantastic games. We'll be breaking down them individually in just a second. Having a little look at how the game panned out. It started off all Bolton, to be fair. The home side really dominating in the first sort of 15, 20 minutes of the game. They got their goal during that time as well. We always speak about it. We spoke about it last week. We spoke about it also last season as well, when we sort of looked at these looked at these games in more detail. We looked at the sort of momentum graphs and what they do show us. And I think what's really, really important is when you see these big spells, so much of the time sides don't make the most of it and don't score and don't really punish the opposition when they do have the majority of the ball and do look good going forward. In this game, Bolton are a brilliant example of when they do come forward, they take their chances. They are very, very clinical and very, very good and effective when they were on the offensive. We can see here it 1-0 to Burton when they did have their first patch of the game. Wycombe try to sort of look a little bit livelier when they respond to going 1-0 down, but then Bolton gets straight back into it. Wycombe then have a little bit of a moment before half-time, but just before half-time, they make it 2-0 Bolton. And Aaron Morley steps up to score his second of the season after, of course, he converted that penalty at Ipswich last weekend. But Carl Dempsey, of course, got that first goal within the first 15 minutes of the game. But before half-time, the perfect time to score, the cliche in football that is so right, finishes 2-0 at the break. Aaron Morley with the second. And into the second half we go. What's Gareth Ainsworth going to say at half-time? What's going to be, I think, the message from him? Well, to be fair, I think Wycombe came out the better side in the second half. He looked the stronger side on the attack. Not really likely that Wycombe are going to be having more of the ball. We'll have a look at the possession stats in just a second, but it's never likely that Wycombe do have the ball or do have the majority of the ball, you'd like to think. And they're not normally the dominating force when you look at the attacking statistics, you'd say. They like to play sort of on the break, but also very, very direct, and they don't normally keep hold of the ball a lot of the time at all. We have a little look at Bolton. Once again, they have a chance, they have a moment. It wasn't the biggest. You can see looking at the graph and looking at the length of the graph, if you like, that sort of dictates and sort of shows us exactly how much of a chance it was. It wasn't a massive chance, and Bolton do take it once again and make it 3-0. Once again, it's Carl Dempsey with his second of the game to make it 3-0. Bakayoko with an assist for that goal as well. So for Bolton, it's a brilliant day at the office. First home game of the season, beating Wycombe, like I said, who once again, a lot of people have written them off for a promotion push after their win against Burton, who got battered again yesterday. I mean, I generally thought, Burton weren't great in that game, but Wycombe certainly did show a lot of quality. I thought they'd be really up for it going into this one. Looked as though, I mean, the scoreline doesn't really reflect that. I mean, they have moments in the game, and sort of Gareth Ainsworth's maybe a message at half-time was, sort it out, and they did come out the better side. But pretty much as soon as they didn't really make the most of that patch coming out in the sort of the second, the first part of that second half, Bolton had a chance. Bolton sort of got a foot back in the game, and then they make it 3-0 and really put the game to bed, you'd say. Looking at the individual players, you can't really look much further than Kyle Dempsey. I've got a Discord server. We talk about League One. We just have a massive chat about League One basically every single day. And on Saturdays, of course, that group chat is absolutely firing with everyone giving their thoughts on their games. Of course, that's like the comment section. Make sure you do that in the comments down below. But also join that Discord server. Like I say, we do lots of things. We did a phone call in before the start of the season. That's where you need to be joining. We do more of these phone call-ins because we will do more of those. That's the place to be. Get in that Discord server. Join it. The link will be in the description to join the Discord server. The Young Fan Podcast Discord server is the name. But like I said, there's a code in the description. You can join that. Kyle Dempsey was the man that was highlighted. Of course, joined from Gillingham last season. I believe it was in January when they went on that big sort of summer spree. Or not summer spree. It was almost like a summer spree. But in January, Kyle Dempsey was one of the players that came through the door. Playing off sort of the left-hand side of a midfield three yesterday. 2 goals in the game. A massive part. Of course, 33 touches. 83 pass completion rate as well. Percent that is. And 1 key pass during the 90. But those 2 goals is really what boosts that rating up. And what a man he was yesterday. And what a 2 goals it was. Aaron Moore, of course, like I say, got his second of the game. Playing with that back 5 once again, which we expected Ian Evatt to do. Dale making his, did he start last weekend? I can't really remember, but he certainly, of course, started in this one. You can see here, playing a 7 out of 10 rating on that left-hand side. It looks as though, to be fair, you look at the average ratings across all of the players, 7.16 for Bolton, 6.71 for Wycombe. Bolton's certainly the better side, certainly deserving the win. Individuals are much better, and as a team, they were much better as well. Finally, let's have a little look at the statistics. 53% possession for Bolton, I said it. Wycombe, they don't have the majority of the ball. It's very unlikely they have the majority of the ball. They're not a side that likes to have possession. However, normally they can sort of win games without having the most of the ball. It's not a necessity for Gareth Ainsworth's side, but they find it difficult today, losing 3-0. Not a good day at the office. 21 shots to 17, so quite an attacking game, you'd say. Couldn't make the most of it. 6-3 with shots on target. Big chances is 1-1 altogether, but Wycombe, they didn't make the most of the chances they did have, and Bolton, like I say, were very clinical when they went forward. It finishes at the University of Bolton Stadium, 3-0 to Bolton Wanderers. Good result for Ian Evatt's side, you must say. Like I say, against a side who are always up there. They're always up there in League One. They're always making it difficult. And they didn't make it as difficult for Bolton as they would have wanted yesterday. Right, let's move on to the next one. Let's go to MK Dons as they hosted Sheffield Wednesday. A big game for MK Dons. Of course, they needed to respond from that 1-0 defeat against Cambridge on the opening game last Saturday, losing 1-0. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do it. They weren't able to do it, and they're going to be very disappointed they weren't able to do it. Because at home, you thought, against Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield Wednesday are a brilliant side. They're going to be up there, we expect, this year. Of course, they came in with a draw. Sheffield Wednesday last weekend against Pompey, 3-3. What a thriller that was. And like I say, for MK Dons, they want to get into winning ways. Back into winning ways. They haven't won a game this year. 2 defeats on the bounce for them. It's not ideal. It wasn't going to be easy, but at home, maybe thought that was going to be where they could really kickstart their campaign. It wasn't to be. They lose 1-0. Let's have a little look at the game and how it sort of panned out. You can see here, second half, MK Dons, they looked the much better side. First half, very, very, I'd say even. Both sides sort of had their moments in the game. Started off quite slow. Started off with no real sign of taking control of the match. Then sort of Sheffield Wednesday sort of had the first big moment. Then MK Dons have a moment. Then back to Sheffield Wednesday. And that's where the goal came on the 30th minute mark. I probably predict. No, 22nd minute mark actually. Joe Windass makes it 1-0. And then MK Dons, they come forward once more. Then Sheffield Wednesday come forward again. And the end of the half finishes with MK Dons going forward. But the second half, absolutely all MK Dons. And I think MK Dons are going to be very disappointed that they couldn't come away with anything more than a defeat. Be disappointed with that, of course they will, but a draw wouldn't have been an unfair result looking at how the game panned out, particularly looking at that second half. Very, very Liam Manning, and you look at the way they played. Extreme football is what they play. They play very, very attacking, very forward-thinking. They've gone back to a back 4. Last season they played a back 3. Last week, they played a back 4. I don't really know if that's the way forward for MK Dons. I'm going to be honest. I think last season, the back three, they looked very, very effective. I thought the wing-backs last year were absolutely brilliant. I thought the back three, with sort of Dean Lewington playing as a left-sided centre-back, he hasn't got the pace really to play as a left wing-back. As a left centre-back, he's much better. Jack Tucker was a brilliant pickup from Gillingham on a free transfer. O'Hara's a really good midfielder. Centre-back. So I don't really understand why they've gone back to a back four. I say gone back to it. I keep saying they've gone back to it. They were back three last year. I say gone back to it because they, of course, played a back four last weekend. And, I mean, it didn't work for them either. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Nathan Holland came off with an injury. Not great to see from him. Of course, I know him very, very well as an Oxford United supporter. Louis on loan from Aston Villa didn't have the best of games either. He came off. Will Grigg came off with an injury as well. So wasn't a great game, you say, for Liam Manning in terms of the result, in terms of the injury and the substitutions he was forced to make. Will Grigg, we know he's struggled with injuries quite a lot. Disappointing to see him come off. Nathan Holland didn't really struggle with injuries too much last season. I don't really remember, so disappointing with him. Either way, though, Sheffield Wednesday, they got the 3 points that they wanted. David Stockdale, the goalkeeper, got man of the match, 8 out of 10 rating on SofaScore. A lot of people quite critical of SofaScore's rating some of the time, but, I mean, look at it from an Oxford fan. I do think a lot of the time they do get it right. I'm not just backing up SofaScore for the sake of it. They do a fairly good job. I know last weekend they were a little bit off with their ratings, but David Stockdale, looking at the second half and how good MK Dons were going forward, David Stockdale getting 8 out of 10, I don't think that's an unfair result. They were very, very dominant in that second half, and like I say, Sheffield Wednesday had to hold on. Maybe their goalkeeper had a lot to say about that. A very, very important win for Wednesday. I mean, one of those games and one of those matches you look back on and you go, look, come the end of the season, we weren't the better side in the second half, but in the important moments, in an important game, second game of the season, away from home, you got to take those 3 points. You take it, you snap your hand off for it. But like I say, second half, look at the size of those graphs. Look at the size of how big it was just generally. I mean, across that second 45, it's pretty much all green, pretty much all the home side, pretty much all MK Dons. You can see, looking at the stats in a little bit more detail, when they load, 67% possession for MK Dons. We know the way Liam Manning likes to play, dictating the game, likes to have the ball, likes to be very attacking with the ball. 10 shots to 15. So interestingly, MK Dons didn't really have many shots with the amount of domination they were in terms of having the ball and going forward, but 5 shots to 4 on target, 1 to 2 actually with big chances. But MK Dons, they looked the much better side in that second half, just didn't really let Sheffield Wednesday have a go, but they didn't need to because they were already 1 goal up and MK Dons couldn't get an equaliser or maybe even a winner. Liam, I know, of course, we've got a regular MK Dons fan in the comment section. Manning is my stepdad. He was Scott Twine is my dad last season. And unfortunately, he's had to change it to Liam. Manning is my stepdad because, of course, Scott Twine moves to Burnley. Are MK Dons really struggling with Scott Twine and Harry Darling leaving the football club? Is this where we're sort of seeing them be a little bit weak when we see those players move on? Maybe it is. They were very influential last year, just looking at the statistics and on the eye as well. Scott Twine was exceptional. Are they lacking that player that can sort of, create a moment of magic, if you like? Maybe they are, because it's not looking great for them. 2 defeats on the bounce. As for Sheffield Wednesday, first 3 points of the season after that draw against Pompey last week at Hillsborough. Defensively, much better as well. We spoke about how they were really, really poor defensively, conceding 3 goals. The wing-backs weren't great last week. I mean, going forward, they were good, but defensively very much exposed. But it looks as though they have shored up. Darren Moore has worked on the training ground this week, and he's come and got a clean sheet against MK Dons, who we know are very, very attacking. Fair play to him, fair play to Sheffield Wednesday. They got the 3 points that they would have wanted. Right, finally, let's go to Charlton, because they earned a very, very big, important win against Derby County, a side that I watched last week. I'm not getting it the wrong way around again. It's going to take me until about match week to get that right. Not last week, last season. Last week. We will get there. Charlton against Derby County. Let's have a little look at the game. Like I said, I watched Derby last weekend, and it's a real outfit. They looked a real outfit. They were very good going forward defensively as well. They were a little bit exposed over the top a couple of times, but generally they looked like a really good side as a back four. I think the way that they attacked, especially on that right-hand side with Mendes Lang and Buckhuizen off the left, but particularly with Mendes Lang on that right-hand side, so dominant, so effective. He's a strong player and such full of physicality, but also full of threat with his pace and also with his crossing ability as well. So certainly a player that if I was going to warn Charlton off before the game, it would have been him. Of course, they've got lots of quality. We look at Hurahan in the midfield. He scored a very good goal. You look at the attacking players. James Collins is certainly a physical player that can cause a lot of problems. Another shout out from another amazing League One content creator, Tyler Rowlinson. Charlton fan, and he's somebody that I watched his match reaction yesterday when it came out, and he said first half it wasn't Charlton's, it wasn't a great Charlton performance whatsoever, and you can see just looking at the graph here, absolutely all Derby in that first half. And he spoke about how last season wasn't good enough. I watched a lot of his stuff last season, talking about how he just wasn't happy with the way that they played, and quite rightly so, finishing I think 14th or 13th in the league, and of course a lot of managerial sort of switches, or two, but that's quite a lot for a season. Then Bengana comes in, his first game at the Valley, and first win, which is very, very important. To think a side like Derby, like I say, who I watched and looked very, very good last weekend, they looked like they wanted to absolutely storm the league. It's not as easy as you think. It's not as easy as you think whatsoever. I think a lot of Derby fans maybe thought they would be able to sort of breeze the division. It's not as easy as that. It really, really isn't. This is a league that causes upsets, causes drama, causes unpredictable nature every single weekend. And once again, Derby involved in it, just a second game of the campaign. Not taking anything away from the fact they were very good last week, but couldn't win at the Valley yesterday, and that'll be a real disappointment for them. But first half, much better side. Charlton weren't good enough, didn't really get a hold of the game, had a sort of a moment in the middle of the first half, but ultimately Derby didn't take their chances, didn't really make the most of the big patch they had in that first half. Then second half came around much more even. You can see here the goal came pretty much, 20 minutes after half time, but I watched Bengana's interview. He summed it up, I think, brilliantly well, and Tyler mentioned it himself. He said that first half was Charlton of last year, and that's not exactly what you want. New manager, a lot of new players, that's not what you want. You want somebody that's going to come in and change the culture and change the morale of the football club. And first half, but the same as last year, isn't the best way of doing that. Second half, though, whatever he said at half time, it absolutely worked, because second half was much better, more like the Charlton that we expected to see under Bengana. Much more even, looking very, very good going forward. Say Derby still have their moments, but when Charlton did come forward, they were much more effective. I mean, they went forward for a start, which is always a helpful thing as an attacking side. 62nd minute, Corey Blackett-Taylor makes it 1-0. They were able to hold on to the game and earn the 3 points at the Valley. Some would say Derby deserved more than a defeat. I probably would, looking at that, you probably have to say maybe the first half they should have taken some of their chances. They were the much better side in the first half. Second half they did have moments. So a draw might have been a fairer result, maybe even a win for Derby. I mean, there's some very, very big dominance in that first 45, but ultimately they didn't take their chance. They weren't clinical enough, and they lose the game. So, not a great result for Liam Rosner's men. Looking at the possession, 59% possession for Derby. They were dominant when it comes to possession. Shots 13-14 actually, so Charlton actually beating them on shots, but Charlton had more on target. First half though, 60-odd possession, I believe, looking at it. Yeah, 62 possession in the first half. Shots, beating them on pretty much all attacks going forward. 7-4 when it comes to corners. 8 shots to 4, 2 shots to 1. 3 shots to 2 on shots on target, shots off target, and shots on target 2-1. So much, much better in terms of the attacking fluidity going forward for Derby. Much better on the ball. Dominated the game. Didn't really let Charlton have a sniff whatsoever. Second half, though, Bengana's team talks. How he earns his money. Second half much better, 56% possession for Derby, so still not a dominant Charlton sort of possession sort of way of football, but more shots, more on target, and of course more goals, and it finishes 1-0. So for Charlton, a draw against Accrington Stanley that was very disappointing, but now back it up with a brilliant win against Derby to make it 1-0 and finish the game 1-0. As for Derby, a good win against Oxford, but they did play very, very well last week, and they weren't able to back that up with another 3 points away from home. Not a good result for them, but I'm sure they're bouncing back next week because they're a very, very good outfit, and they're a cracking side. Quite quickly before we round up and sort of really round up this episode, I want to sort of take a look at a few other of the games, not as in detail as we have looked at, just sort of looking at the scorelines and sort of saying a couple of things, because there were some interesting scorelines yesterday. Exeter beating Port Vale 4-0. Not a good result for Port Vale whatsoever, an absolute battering for them. And Exeter, I mean, a very, very good start of the season for them, really. Away at Lincoln, drawing 1-1, now win 4-0. They look like a really good outfit, and Brown looks as though he had a great game as well. 9.1 rating for him. How many goals did he score? He must have scored a few. He scored 2 goals. Sam Nombe also scored a goal in there as well. Harry Kite made it 1-0 to the 24th minute, but a very, very good result for him. And he's also in that team of the week as well. We don't speak about the team of the week a lot, but Brown was in there. Harness was in there for Ipswich. We'll come on to Ipswich in just a second. In fact, we'll do it right now. Ipswich winning their first game of the season. Of course, a draw against Bolton last weekend. 2-1 for them against newly promoted, Forest Green. Harness got a very, very good rating in that. Did he score in that game? I don't think he did. He might have done. Yeah, he did actually. 37th minute, 1-0. 45th minute just before half time. Sam Morsey made it 2-0. Lincoln against Pompey, not a great result for Pompey at home. Back at Fratton Park for the new season, 0-0. Didn't look great, you'd say. Probably the better side, looking at the way they went forward. Couldn't take their chances, couldn't get a goal. The goalkeeper for Lincoln got man of the match. Says quite a lot about the game, but not a good result for Pompey, you'd say. Barnsley getting back to winning ways, or getting their first of the season, beating Cheltenham. Duff winning against his former side. Peterborough beating Morecambe 3-0. Back-to-back wins for Peterborough. Morecambe, we predicted them to get relegated, or I certainly did, and not a good result for them. But Peterborough, they're going to be a good side this year. Morecambe, though, a little bit of a thumping, you say there. Bolton against Cambridge United, a last-minute winner from Tyler Goodrum. What a lad. He makes it at 1-0 in the 90-plus third minute. You can watch my match reaction for that, like I said, on the channel. 2-1 to Fleetwood against Plymouth. We spoke about that one. And, also for Burton, not a good day at the office at all. Down to 10 men during the game, but also getting battered 4-0. Evans had an absolute cork of a game, getting a 9 out of 10 rating on SofaScore, but 4-0 against Burton. What a great result for Joey Barnes, of course, who lost last weekend. A cracking result for Charlie Rovers Vlogs and that brilliant channel and that brilliant football club who win 4-0. And finally, Accrington make it 1-0 with a win over Shrewsbury. Shrewsbury, I spoke about how they're going to be a real outfit this season. Maybe I'm getting that a little bit wrong. Not a good result for them, losing at home to Accrington Stanley, who, of course, drew against Charlton, so they're going to have 4 points out of a possible 6. It's a good start for John Coleman's side, once again proven to be a banana skin, once again proven to be a really difficult side. Let's see what happens going into match week number 3. Until next time, I've been Jack. This has been the Unfan Podcast. Leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave a comment. Are you happy with your team's performance? Until next time, I'll see you all very soon. Take care. Hopefully, their voice will be back next week as well, because it's so difficult. Oxford, stop scoring late goals. It's painful. It really is. I'll see you next time. See you in a bit.